Hey, y'all, you're listening to the Mindset School Podcast, episode 34. Today, we discovered the extraordinary journey of one woman whose life took an unexpected turn when faced with the heartbreaking challenge of delayed fertility. As her dreams seemed distant, Beth found solace in an unlikely companion, running. But this was just the beginning. Join us as we delve into the inspiring story of Beth Cacciapalle. Hey, friends, welcome to the Mindset School Podcast with Peggy Easterling, where we learn to smile authentically from the inside out. Hello, Beth. How are you today?
Hello, Peggy. I am good. How are you?
I am so excited to share today your beautiful self. If you guys are just listening and you're not watching on video, Beth blesses my heart every time I see her on camera. We're in this group together, and she has the most beautiful smile you can possibly imagine, and she always lights up a space when she enters it. But Beth, I want you to tell my listeners just a little bit about yourself today to get started.
Absolutely. I would love to. So, my name is Beth Cacciapalle, and I am 41. I am born and raised in Michigan. Very cold if you are from the Northwest, but we do get all four seasons, which I must say I love. I have been married 11 years now, and we have a giant white fluffy cat. And we are in the wait for our children. We have been in the wait for our children for 10 years. And every time I share that, people are like, oh my gosh. But we have traveled. I have been to Italy and France and Mexico. We've had amazing vacations. We have amazing family and friends. And we are just living as best and as fully as we can while we're in this waiting season. It's been tough. There's been struggle, but haven't we all struggled through things? And I currently work as a project officer, but I'm actually in transition because I am trying to launch my own entrepreneurship and stepping into my God calling, which that is a whole other story in and of itself. And yeah, I think that's kind of the cliff notes of us.
I think you left out one little piece. You are a runner. Tell me, I'm intrigued by this because I'm the opposite of a runner. Beth, let me just tell you about my lack of running skills. Whenever I used to play softball when I was young, not even high school age, I'm talking young. You know, at that age, I was in the best shape of my life, and I would literally hit the ball. And if I didn't hit a home run, I would be in trouble because I was so slow. And if somehow I made it to third base, the girl that hit behind me, I remember her. Her name was Shun Payne, and she would hit the ball, and she was a track star, and she could run from first to second to third and be waiting for me to run from third to home so that she could hit the plate right behind me. But I am the opposite of a runner. Tell me about your running adventures.
Well, I actually didn't really get into running until about 2016. And that was about 3 years into our delayed fertility journey. And really what kind of sparked that, I ran track in high school to get my high school or my varsity letter. So high school track, they don't cut anyone. So I was not skilled. I was just on the team. And so in 2016, after 3 years of disappointments and just things not going as we thought they would, I decided, I was like, hey, babe, you want to run a 5K? And he's like, what? And I was like, well, he's like, when? I'm like, well, end of October. And mind you, this is August. So we have a couple months to kind of like train for it. And so I went to like Kohl's, got like the cheapest pair of $40 tennis shoes. I had shorts, I had a t-shirt. I'm like, I'm going to go do this. And so I went out and I think I barely made it 8 minutes with jogging. And I was like, okay, good, going home. And then the next day I would just try to go a little longer and a little longer. And my goal was to run, and I use the word run loosely, run this 5K without stopping was my goal. And I did. And it has kind of, I guess, spiraled in an upward way since then. I now, was it 6 or 7 years later, I have ran about 8 or 9 half marathons. I ran a full marathon in 2021, dozens and dozens of 5Ks, 10Ks. I jog for fun. I just go out and I run. It's actually been one of the most healing things for me. And it's actually where the Lord and I have beautiful time together. And when I need just alone time, I'll go on a run. And it's really not even alone time because I always invite Jesus with me. And it's just a very sweet time. I have prayed on my runs. I pray for other people on my runs. I weep on my runs. It's just beautiful time to be out in nature and also set a goal that I could accomplish and achieve. And the Lord has taught me so much through running. It's so fascinating, the parallels between life and training for something. And he has just used that to foster so much revelation in my life. And I don't know where I would be without it. It is now a hobby. It's a passion. I enjoy it. It's just sweet time. And I've made so many amazing run friends through going to different races, and you see some of the same faces and you volunteer at races. And it's a beautiful community of people all just out there. And it's such a wide variety of people. There's everyone from the walkers who are they're just out there to walk, and they walk a whole half marathon or a full marathon, which that's 26.2 miles, which is a long time to walk, versus the quote elite runners who they're trying to qualify for like Boston, which is such a prestigious race. So it's been super fun to be in the mix of all of that. And it's just been something that has just helped my heart over these years. And like I said, turn into a hobby and a passion now.
I love that. And I love that you brought the community aspect into it, because community is so important. And finding people right where you're at, just living life, loving it, is so important. And in living life and needing community, sometimes we need to lock into community, into those spaces of our life that are challenging, and we're walking through challenges together. And that's what I do in the mindset school. That's the work that I'm doing. And that's the work that you're bringing into your life now, it seems. And I was just in a space with Dr. Caroline Leaf yesterday. And she, if you don't know her, she is an amazing author. I love her work. She's a neuroscientist, and she just authored a book called How to Help Your Child Clean Up Their Mental Mess. She has the adult version called Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. And in this space and in this time, she was just going into this book and all the neuroscience behind our brain and why things just function the way they do, and do you know what she said was the most important thing to pull up and uproot our thoughts that hold us back in life? It's our story. It's reframing our story that we tell ourselves in our mind. And if we'll get to the root of the story that we tell ourselves, then what happens? We can reframe that and uproot that lie that's got root in our heart. And when we uproot it and we reconstruct our story and align it, she didn't say this in this talk, but I say we've got to align it with what God says about us. And when we do, it brings freedom. And I watched you in your life, in your story. And I watched the way you're deconstructing lies in your life, and you're lining those with what God says about you. Tell me a little bit about that part of your story.
Ooh, well, it probably goes back to those around the time I started running, 3 years into our fertility journey. it got really hard. I would say almost kind of really fast, even though we were 3 years in. But I just assumed, hey, it takes a year for people. And I'm like, 2 years is fine. And then by the time 3 came, I'm like, maybe we should kind of just rule things out. And it very quickly got very dark and very isolating, very depressing, because even though we were seeing doctors or doing treatments or whatever it is, life is still happening for the friends around you and your friend circle. And so they're having babies or they're having their second baby, and you're not getting answers. And so then the enemy starts whispering all kinds of lies. You're not good enough. Your past mistakes. You're missing out. They're getting your blessing. All of these things. And it really got very difficult. And that was really what spurred on the running, because I was like, I need something that I can obtain, because 3 years in and we're not getting the results we want, like the definition of sanity, doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. And so by stepping into that helped kind of keep me from going deeper, but there was still that darkness and that isolation. And so a couple years later, it starts to come out where I'm finding not only a run community, but now I'm starting to really dive into the infertility community and finding people who can relate, who are also struggling to conceive or who aren't getting answers. And that, I feel, really was a catalyst to shifting a lot of things, because then it's like, I'm truly not alone. There are other people going through this, because again, my friend circle weren't experiencing this. I literally knew no one in my own life that had to wait for their children. And that was really hard. Even my family, my parents, my cousins, all of these other women who we all got married at the same time and were the only ones who at that point still didn't have kids. And it was just like, whoa, like, what did I do wrong? And I vividly remember thinking, what did I do wrong? Like, I've done everything right. I did everything the way the Bible says I should. I'm following the way God says you should do this. And I'm like, what the heck? And it really wasn't till I hit that community and started to dive in and find people that were going to not only resonate with my story and who I could talk with and kind of vent to and share things with, but they also started to lift me up and they started to speak life into me. And that was that big catalyst of those pivotal years that really changed things around, and having that community of like-minded Christian women to help pull me out.
Yeah. So I hear the power of community and hearing other people's stories. And I hear over and over and over how Satan tries to isolate us and tell us we are the only ones. And it's 1,000% a lie. Every time it's a lie. It's never true that we're the only ones. And whether he's bringing shame or isolation or just lies from the pit of hell into that space in your life, we're built for community and we heal in community. And I love that you found people that you can relate to and share your story with, because I'm going to go back to that. When we share our story, we heal.
Mm-hmm.
And in sharing your truths, in authenticity, just, I'm going to be real with you. I've gone through this journey and this is where I'm at. And to people who you believe can understand you and will show you compassion and empathy in a safe space because they've been there. That is what God intends for us to do, to lock arm in arms in faith and community. And, there are days where I am just so not my strongest. I have weak days and I'm like, Lord, it reminds me of Mark 9, where the guy's like, help me with my unbelief. He says, I believe. And then he says, help me with my unbelief.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. I feel that. what is it like in that space to truly tear down those walls and show that authenticity to people, that maybe some things you've not spoken out loud before that are just real raw feelings that you have?
It's a few things. It's relief, it's freedom. There's healing in it that is kind of unexplainable. And the Bible even says to share things with other people, even if it's just one person, to share something, because it breaks down that wall. It breaks down that wall. It breaks down that stronghold that the enemy has on you, because we want to not tell anyone those things. People think it's shameful that they're not conceiving. But when we actually admit it, that, hey, this is what I'm going through, this is what's happening, and we don't know why, there's not an explanation for it that we know of, but yet we're still contending and believing in all this, it's like his stronghold just crumbles. He can't do anything. He has no hold over us. And it just, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie. It's an 80s movie, throwing it back here, The Labyrinth. But I watched it as a kid. And I vividly remember the part towards the end where she's standing there and she looks at him and she goes, "You have no power over me." And everything behind her crumbles. And the whole make-believe, basically she was in a dream the whole time, but it's all crumbling behind her. And that's the vision that I get when you start sharing these things. It's like the enemy has no hold over you anymore. And just things just fall off. And it's such freedom. And it's indescribable.
Wow. What a beautiful picture of the freedom that God has for us. I mean, who knew David Bowie? Is it David Bowie? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, David Bowie.
Who knew him in his white pants and his crazy 80s hair could have such a powerful moment, as an analogy here? But
yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Just everything else crumbles.
Yeah.
When we really put our faith in God, everything else crumbles.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the part. Wasn't it scary and hard at first to say things out loud?
Oh, absolutely.
And those emotions that come to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people quit in that space of that. They have that opportunity to go through the hard to get to the good. And
Mm-hmm.
I say to hang on to your faith and do things sweaty, because you've got to take action towards what God's called you to. And there's so many of us that won't get into a space of community because they're self-protecting. But God's way is community, and that's where the healing's at. And I hear you speaking so loudly about the healing that you've had and about the shifts in your own mindset.
Yeah, it's just been so powerful, and I'm so thankful to the Lord. But I also recognize that, like you just said, it takes action. It takes being willing to be in those uncomfortable moments to see the breakthrough, and to have those uncomfortable conversations, or to be vulnerable, or to be in those situations where you're going by yourself to something. I have been a part of a ministry around infertility, and that has just been so amazing, because I was invited to a home support group back in 2018 was when it started. And the girl randomly reached out to me out of nowhere. I didn't know this person, but she's like, "Hey, I see that you live near me. I'm starting this in-person support group. Do you want to come?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And I knew that it was going to do something, to sit in a room with other people who know what this is like outside of just being in like an internet forum. I knew it was going to be powerful. And I'll be the first to admit, there were days I didn't want to go to meetings for whatever reason. But I can also tell you that the meetings I didn't want to go to, when I did go, they were the most powerful. They were absolutely the most powerful meetings. And it just goes to show you that the enemy is going to try to pull you away from that community. He's going to do whatever he can do to be like, "No, you don't need to go. You don't feel good today," or "You have a headache today," or fill in the blank with whatever he's trying to tell you to keep you away from that community. And I thank the Lord every day that I was like, you know what? It'll be fine. I can take in a leave and I'm going to still go. It's 2 hours of my time. And it was just, he showed up. He showed up every time and just continued to chisel away at that hard heart and just continue to work and restore what the enemy has tried to destroy.
Oh, wow. I love that. And your willingness to be vulnerable and put yourself out here, even now, because you're standing in faith.
Mm.
You're standing in here saying, I trust God. I trust Him. I trust Him. There's scriptures in the Bible that speak directly to infertility. How does that make you feel seen and heard and known in these tender moments?
The scriptures around infertility, Hannah and Elizabeth and Sarah, you see all the t-shirts that you want to be like these women, and you can go two ways with it. It's like, I really don't want to wait till I'm 80 or 100. Lord, please don't make me wait that long. But you also see the perseverance. You see how they contended. You see how they didn't give up. And I love the fact that in the Bible, they never tell you what the issue was. Because I really believe it doesn't matter what the issue is. God can take care of it. So it really doesn't matter what the issue is or isn't, but it's just the fact that they still believed, they still contended, and it's an encouragement. It's like, wow, look at the fruit that came from their wombs. Look at the fruit that was produced from their perseverance and by not giving up. And look at the promise that was fulfilled. Even when they tried to go about it their own way, God still fulfilled the promise. And it's just such a beautiful picture. And that's definitely something that we can, I think, aspire to in that sense of holding on, because if it's not good, it's not done. God's not done. So it's like, no, I'm going to keep going. He has given me, I'd say, at least a dozen dreams and visions of my children, calling them by name, being pregnant, carrying them, delivering them. And I hold on to those, just like I hold on to the beautiful women in the scriptures who held on and didn't give up. I hold on to those dearly. And I remind him, you gave me these. You're not going to tease me. You're not going to lie to me. You're going to fulfill this promise. And I'm holding on until you do, until those babies are in my arms. So I use it as an encouragement.
I love that. What would you say? I know there's women out there that they haven't found that community for themselves yet, and they're hurting. What would you say to that woman that's out there that's struggling with this issue?
You are not alone. My sweet sister, you are not alone. And the Lord loves you so much. You are so precious to him. He sees you. He sees your tears. He collects them and holds them dear to him. It hurts him that you're grieving, but he is with you. He is with you every step. He has not walked away. In fact, he has left the 99 for you. That's how much he loves you. You are not alone in this. There is community. There are others out there. Reach out to me. I will gladly sit and chat with you. You can tell me all the things. I want to hear them because I want to not only agree with you, but I want to rejoice with you when that promise is fulfilled.
Wow. That is beautiful, Faith. Thank you so much. I love the way that this is it's like the faith that you're holding on to and you're not going to let go of. But it's also your story at the same time. And you've married those two, and just even though this may look like a negative, you see it as a positive. I think that sometimes there's a thing in our society that is toxic positivity. And I don't think that's what you have. I think that positivity, while denying the truth, can be so toxic to us. But I think that as our thoughts come to us that might be negative, if we grab those and we process them and we take them to the feet of the cross, That's where the freedom lies. What has that process looked to you, even today? Because I know that thoughts still likely come to you that don't align with who you're believing in faith. What
Mm,
does that process look like?
absolutely. I can very much speak to this. Actually, most recently this year, after a year, maybe a little less than a year of going to the Lord and processing what our next steps are, He actually has led me to a direction that I never wanted. I never wanted to seek IVF. There was just, I had my reasons for it. And the Lord spent lots of time with me and actually softened my heart to that, which is a complete miracle and testimony in and of itself. And so we started that journey this year, and it has literally taken all year. I found out that there was a uterine abnormality that they wanted to have surgery to correct. And I was like, what? And of course, that was a great opportunity for the enemy to try to sneak in. And I was like, no, I'm standing firm that everything's going to be fine. Had the surgery, everything was fine, healed beautifully. Huge praise to God. No scar tissue, anything. And then we moved on after some more delay and did do our egg retrieval and a transfer, which was not successful. And throughout this entire year, that has been kind of my mantra is just, Lord, I trust you. I trust you. Whatever that looks like, whatever I have to do, I'm laying it at your feet and I trust that you have us. And He has literally walked us through this whole year. And even the day that I found out that it wasn't successful, that was the first thing that I did is I walked outside and I said, but you're still good. You're still good, but you're still good. And I literally just kept repeating that because I was not going to allow the enemy to completely derail my year of peace, because I have been at such peace this whole process. Like, people have stories about their journey, and I'm like, I've been at peace all year with this. And it's completely the Lord's hand upon me and upon us as a couple, walking through each and every step of this process, because it's a lot. It's stressful. There are so many things happening. And He has just been so sweet. But it has taken me sitting with Him in that tension of, Lord, I don't want to do this. Are you sure? Are you sure? And just going back, and it's been a surrender. Every day has been, okay, Lord, I'm giving it to you. I'm laying it at your feet. I trust you. I trust your plan, your timing, because your timing is perfect, and whatever that looks like. And it's just been a daily, it's daily. It's continuous. It is consistent. I've had to be consistent with that. I've had to be consistent to bring myself back to gratitude and thank Him for all that He's doing in the midst of it. And I do daily. I write down at the end of every day 3 things I'm thankful for from that day. So regardless of the day that I got the news I didn't want to get, I have it written down, 3 things I'm thankful for that day. So it's a process. It's a lot, but it's continuous and it's action every day. It's not a one and done. You have to keep doing it every day.
There's a scripture that says, put on a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. And I think about that phrase, and I think about it in reference to our mindset and how when you put on a garment, it's something on the outside that you choose. You go to your closet and you pick it. And there's choices there. And it sounds like you're choosing to put on that garment in the time, in faith, even though there's a garment right hanging there. That's another choice. And I don't know about you, but I mess up sometimes and I pick the wrong one that day. And I put it on and I'm like, well, okay. And then after I pick the wrong garment, I have a choice even then. Because it's a garment, I can take it off. And I can choose the other one in my closet, even though I just chose this one, but I'm going to go back. And what happens often is people will pick the wrong garment, but they forget they don't have to beat themselves up for picking the wrong garment. That other garment of praise, of submission and surrender to God is hanging in your closet. And if you've picked the wrong garment in the past, whether it was 5 minutes ago or you've been stuck for 40 years and you are standing in even this particular circumstance and situation, there's a garment. And it is a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. It is that gratitude that Beth speaks of that she goes to every night, and she chooses that garment. And that garment's available for every one of us that chooses to surrender our junk that we've taken on that God does not want us to carry the weight of, and lay it at his feet. And it's beautiful how you've surrendered that garment to him and you've stood in faith and held on with armored up and knowing who you are in Christ. What a beautiful story, Beth. Thank you so much for sharing it here with us today. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today? There's a lot of people who listen to this podcast for hope, and they are stuck in different situations in their mindset. What would you say to that woman that's stuck?
I would just say that even though you're stuck, it's okay. You have that choice. And hear my heart that my emotions still bubble up. I'm not saying that when I got that news that I was just joyful. No, I cried. I wept. And we wept together. And even the next day, I had another wave hit me. But in between those waves, I had a choice. And I chose to seek praise and gratitude and thankfulness as opposed to wallowing in it for days or weeks on end. And so if you are in that situation, you feel stuck, my suggestion and my encouragement to you is to just start with one. Start with one thing you're thankful for. Start with one thing you can find that happened in your life today. Maybe you got to eat your favorite pizza. Maybe you got to have ice cream. Maybe the sun just came through the window and felt so warm on your skin. Find one thing to be grateful and thankful for, because that one thing is going to be that domino that tips, and it's going to just continue to knock over the next one, the next one, the next one. But you got to start with that one. Just find one thing in each day and then expand and expand and expand. And eventually that's all you're going to see. Even in the midst of a circumstance that you aren't really wanting, you're still going to find the good things.
Oh, good. That's so good. I love that you gave space to people that need to cry, because that's how I healed. I suppressed all of my emotion for 40 years. And when I say that, I'm not exaggerating. Like every emotion that I considered negative from the time I was 8 years old until the time I was in my 40s, I shoved it inside. And I did not allow myself to feel negative emotion. I'm not saying I never cried, but to truly express and really feel the depth of the emotion that I went through, I didn't let myself. And so maybe there's a woman that needs to shed a tear at the feet of the cross about her infertility, and take that to the cross and take it to God. He cares. He loves them. And you're showing that love to women today. You're showing that compassion to women today. Tell me how you're doing that. I love watching it.
Well, the Lord called me to actually coach women in the infertility community. And that was a very scary thing. It was a, "Are you sure, God?" moment. But he did. He called me. He completely set it up for me. It was such a divine order of operations, and it kind of went very quickly as far as getting connected. And I actually decided I wanted to be certified. I do actually have a degree in counseling as well as a degree in psychology. And I just wanted to add that coaching certification into the mix and learn the things that I may not already know. And he just completely orchestrated my steps and the connections, and he funded it completely, all within a very short period of time, which is completely a God thing. And now I am certified. I have a coaching business that I am launched where I help women in the infertility community who are stuck, who feel hopeless and have doubt and have that bitterness and that anger and that hurt that are still deep down from this journey. I am here to help encourage you and to help shift, like you said, that mindset and that thinking and that thought process to the other side, to where you can have joy in your wait. You can have hope while you're still waiting. You can live fully and not be in that dark place anymore while you're still waiting for that promise fulfilled. And I am 100% a testimony of that, because I was that. And now I'm here still waiting, still contending, but I have joy and faith and hope, like mountaintop faith. And I know you can too. I know that's God's heart for you. And that is my passion. That's my heart. I feel God placed it on my heart for this, to just help walk beside you and show you that it's yours too. You just got to receive it. And that's what I want to do.
When you were talking about your joy, you lit up, like your face lit up, your posture just illuminated as you were talking about that. And I want to just say, so many of us, we're looking for happiness in life and we want always to be happy, but that's not what joy is. Joy can occur in the midst of turmoil. Joy is something that you can be sad and crying at the feet of Jesus, and your joy is still freedom in the joy that you have in the Lord. And if you've never really experienced that, you might not understand, but it's available to you. Tell me about, what is your insight as far as that goes, how you define the difference between happiness and joy?
For me, happiness depends on what's happening. So if everything's good, oh, you're happy. When things are not good, not so happy. Where joy is truly, like you said, it is from the Lord. Joy only happens because Jesus is in here and has healed those broken and wounded places that the enemy has tried to take you out. And it's 100% him, because this is how I was. My nickname growing up was Tigger. I was the bouncy, cheerful, happy, go all the things. And then there was a chunk of time where not so much. And he has fully restored that joy in my life. And I truly am a joyful person. I feel like I've always been more on the positive, kind of look at the other side of the coin kind of person. But this joy is truly from the Lord. And that is the only explanation for it. Because to walk through the things that we've walked through this year, to walk through things that we've gone through in our life, and to yet just, it's unexplainable. I think it's the joy unexplainable is what it is. And it is truly from the Lord. And I give him the praise and the glory every day for it, because I didn't like being miserable. I wasn't a fun person to be around. I feel like I'm pretty fun to be around now. So it's like, yes. And when I see others, it's like, you can have it too. And I want you to have it. He wants you to have it. It is yours for the taking. Like you said, you just got to receive it. It is ours. It is all of us. It is for each and every one of us.
That is so good. I want to ask you a hard question, Beth.
Okay.
There's women who have never experienced infertility, and they don't know, when they walk up to you, how to have a conversation with you about that, or even if they can share their joyous moments with someone who's struggling with infertility, how can someone have a conversation that might feel uncomfortable or share things in their lives if they're connected with someone struggling with this, and also be so sensitive yet real and authentic at the same time?
I think it just has to do with asking the question. If you're someone and you have never experienced delayed fertility, your babies came what we would say easily to you, you tried and you got pregnant, and maybe you do know someone in your life who is struggling. Really, we just want to be treated like anyone else. Like, don't ignore us. Don't just not invite us to things. You can still invite, but maybe it's a side text. Maybe it's a side conversation of, hey, this is coming up. I want to invite you. Don't feel pressure to come. Things like that. Because I know over time, I stopped getting invitations. And there was a point in my journey that I physically could not go. Just mentally, I was not in the right place. I'm in a different place now, and I have no problem attending things. I have no problem talking about things, but I do understand there are people who are still in a state that it is difficult. And so it's really just extending that olive branch and just asking where they're at. Like, how are you feeling about this? It's just being real with them. And if you feel the need to preface another announcement with, hey, I just wanted to tell you this before I blast it on social media, that's obviously a very respectful thing to do. I'm sure your friend would very much appreciate getting a personal announcement, like a heads up, as opposed to just seeing it splashed over social media. Because I know that has been, for some people, a difficult thing to process when they see, oh, another friend, when they're just still waiting. That can be difficult. And so it's really just giving them the space to share and saying, hey, how are you? How are you doing with this? I know it's got to be tough. We don't need advice. We don't need solutions. We don't need, oh, so-and-so got pregnant this way. It's not always about that. It's really just, how are you? How can I pray for you? You want to get coffee? You want to go get some lunch? It's just having those same moments without the extra need to feel like you need to fix it, because it's not your role to fix the situation for her. It's your role to be a friend.
Mm, that's so good. It's completely in line with, I even heard Brene Brown speaking on a similar topic and talking about vulnerability in the hard spaces. And she sat in spaces with people who had gone through so many hard things, losses, and she asked these people what they needed. And that's the exact same thing they said. We just want to be treated like we're the same. We want to be treated like just normal people. We don't want to be treated any other way. So thank you for sharing that. And I love the concept of extending the olive branch as well. And when we need to have a little extra sensitivities about us with that friend we know who is struggling, yet give them the option to make the decision and the choice.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Beth, how can people, because I know people are out there, they're listening, and they're really going to be like, oh my gosh, I love Beth and I need to connect with her. Maybe they're a runner and they want to be like, I want to run like Beth and I want to connect with her about that. Or maybe they're struggling and they need a friend. How can they connect with you and get to know you?
I would say the best way to connect with me is on Instagram. My handle is at Beth C Glows. And I share pretty much everything there, from my coaching, my fertility stuff, my running stuff. Everything is out there. Family trips, that's on my one-stop shop for all things me. And I am open on there as far as it does show my running stats a little bit, and then as well my fertility journey. So that would be a great place to connect with me. I'm very active. I'm on there pretty much all the time.
If you guys are listening and you need a coach about this topic, I'm telling you, I have known Beth for a little while now, and her heart is so genuine every time she shows up in a space. It's so genuine. And her heart for God is so amazing. And she shows up as a leader in the spaces that she shows up in. So I encourage you, if you need a coach because you're experiencing that delayed fertility, Beth is the coach for you. And I will have her information in the show notes so that you can connect with her and get in touch. And if you aren't following Beth on Instagram, go follow her now because she is amazing. And she hasn't, I haven't become a runner, but she does help me get off the sofa. I'm just saying. So, Beth, thank you so much today. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being vulnerable and already in faith, tossing that rope because you've experienced the freedom that comes with trust and faith and surrender in Christ in your mindset. Before you even have the answer that you're looking for, you have it in your hands by faith, and you're showing women how they can do the same. And it's beautiful to watch. Thank you for letting us go on this journey with you and for sharing your story today.
You are welcome. Thank you so much, Peggy, for having me on. I was just honored to be here and to share. And I pray that it encourages someone out there listening today that you are seen, you are heard, and the Lord loves you.
As always, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. If you like what you heard, I'd love to know. Leave us a review and share with a friend that could use an overcoming story so they can move closer to their purpose for their lives by renewing their mind the way God intended. Hey friends, thank you for listening. You're now done with step 1 of growing together at the Mindset School. Head over to themindsetschool.net and grab my free download where I share 5 tips when you can't hold it together anymore and continue your journey to smiling authentically from the inside out.